welcome. This project came out of two conversations. One was with Ted and Marlene, and I think of my conversations with Ted as sort of like that movie, My Dinner with Andre. You know, each one of them is sort of one of these sort of important sort of something happens conversations. And so there was a conversation with Ted and Marlene, and then one with Art and Jeffrey at a party. The first conversation was that Ted's got all these ideas, really wants to see them implemented. Why don't we implement one of these things? And said, why don't we take a month and try to do a code sprint and try to just as a complete. I've never heard it done before. But the idea of just go and say, all right, let's take a month, and how much can we get done in a month? Well, you can't ever finish anything in a month, but how far can you get? And so I was like, great, let's try it. And so it came out of that, and then we had to try to pull together a group. And I think Edward Betts met Ted at an archive event in Golden Gate Park, started to get kind of an idea of sort of how mind-blowing Ted's ideas were. And Art and Jeffrey were at a party, and I said, hey, why don't we try to do something completely insane? And those guys are generally up for doing things that are completely insane. So this is, guys have been working for a month, and take it away, Ted.
Yay!
Yay!
I'll custom design for I'm going to take 1 minute, and then we'll pass to members of the group where they'll each take 1 minute, and then the actual demo will be done by my sweet partner, Marlene Mallicoat, who has been better at demos than anybody for quite a while since she was an idea. So, I'm the only contrarian in the computer field, I believe, because I want to start over, go back to 1945, get rid of files, get rid of a lot of things except TCP/IP, but
Wires.
But we're talking about a new kind of structure for documents, a new kind of structure for human life. See, the problem is that in this world as we know it, has been created by people who are often, shall we say, socially challenged and don't know much about human life. And so I believe that today's computer world is designed by, based on misunderstandings about human life and thought. So anyway, ZigZag is a way of organizing things. It's like, where do we put that? We put it on the desktop. ZigZag is a structure which is simple, like tapes and like lists and like tables. So a list is a simple structure, and we all know it. A table is a simple structure, and ZigZag is a simple structure, but they're different because with lists the overall shape is given top down. With ZigZag, it's built bottom up in any arrangement of straight lines and right angles. That's all it is. And it doesn't have to be regular. So these are the sorts of things people were expecting when we started, and then these are the sort of structures we discovered that have amazing properties. And we're still learning the properties of ZigZag structures as a new kind of computer universe. They're orthogonal, meaning they're two-dimensional, but they're hyperthogonal because they can be, these same paradoxical structures can exist in as many dimensions as you like, but any two dimensions are simply orthogonal. So that's the theory of it. And let's go now to Andrew. I'll Skype him. Oh dear, I didn't get his Skype.
Yeah,
His Skype name should be on there. Let's see if he shows.
Oh, good. Excellent. So, what do I wait?
Just wait, it's doing something.
Because he's standing by.
Hey, Andrew.
Andrew's been my colleague for 20 years, and he's brilliant. He came and spent 3 weeks with us. He gets his minute. Andrew, are you there?
Click on the green button, the call button.
Yes. Oh. There he is, looking youthful and angelic.
Which he is.
Hello, Andrew. Speak to the people. You have 1 minute. You have one Andrew minute to say whatever you like about our history and whatever and the project and so on. Oh, hey, there he is. Look at.
It's been really working with so many wonderful people at the archive. Very good to meet. and it's been great to get another chance to, in yet another interesting way that I hope people will get a chance to experience.
He had no
And,
idea.
I wish everybody success.
Yay, thank you very much.
From Melbourne.
And now if you will introduce Jeffrey.
You introduce
All right,
Jeffrey, just
I
like
shall
it.
introduce Jeffrey.
Just take the call.
Jeffrey, thank you, Andrew, goodbye. Jeffrey Ventrella is an amazing artist and thinker and programmer. Please.
Okay, so, I'll say C. So most of you know that I work here on the NASA Images project homepage, a little bit farther in from the homepage, but mostly the homepage. And then I did a little bit of work with Open Library. And then a little bit more work on NASA Images. And then on this project. And Brewster introduced me to ZigZag a couple of years ago, a year ago. And I thought it was very cool. So I was very excited to work on this project. I think we've just scratched the surface as to what's possible, because when I first heard about it, I kind of got this sort of aha sense that this is a very basic, powerful way of organizing information. And I started thinking about metaphors like, you know, the human brain and cell and neurons and the connectivity, and how knowledge can be described as just the way things are connected to each other. And in fact, just today I thought about Borges' Library of Babel, about imagine yourself in a room and you're looking at books and you see one wall and these are cool books, and you teleport through that wall into another room, and you teleport up and out and in all these orthogonal directions. And in fact, as you're navigating through this Library of Babel, you're really going through a multi-dimensional space. And that was just one. There are many, of course, ways to think about how this works. So I think it's a very ooh-wow thing to imagine this. So we just scratched the surface, and what else can I say? Yeah, we decided to do it in JavaScript. We explored using SVG, Canvas, and DHTML. And we're just using DHTML right now, but once we need to do lines, we might want to try out SVN. We've arranged the code so that we can run it in different graphics environments if we want to try them out. And so there's been lots of, the typical head scratching and pounding on tables with working with JavaScript, all the good parts and the bad parts. But I think we've done pretty good job of.
In a word, how did you like ZigZag to work with? In a word, what did you think of ZigZag?
Did or do?
Well,
Do.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I'd like to work on ZigZag for 10 years. I mean, I'm imagining virtual worlds built on Mobius strips in multi-dimensions, or creating fractals. I mean, what I'm really interested in is sort of the topology of how these things connect to each other, and how you navigate through that. And so it's really a way of thinking about moving through the space. It's kind of a behavioral, it's like a dynamic way of thinking about it. I think for me, the dynamism of moving through this space is really the power of it.
Okay, so introduce Art.
Art. Where's Art?
He's here.
Money. Hi, I'm Art. Unlike Jeff, Jeff and I have known each other for 15 years now or something. We keep talking about working on a project together, and we've never done that.
Come sit in the
And so,
chair.
there are too many photos in there. So when I found out about this project and Jeff was working on it, I said, oh, wow, we can finally do that. But unlike Jeff, who has all these metaphors and ideas and connections and all that, I just was curious how we could possibly get this thing to work. Because at the lower levels of just making a performant piece of software that isn't going to take all day to do a very simple thing. And so for the first part of this project, I was really dubious that the Open Library server could either handle this on a large scale or even be massaged into giving us the data we needed. So I spent a lot of time building just a simple ZigZag server that could be loaded up with data just in case, a fallback server. And it turns out at the end of a couple of weeks, Edward had kind of managed to get it to work. So I built the front end to the existing open library server that is at least moving along pretty well. It's giving us almost what we need. And so that's what you'll be seeing. And then I spent the second 2 weeks just helping just debugging and stuff. And that's my story. I guess the next person would be Edward, who's sitting here.
Hi there. So I first saw Ted talk in 2005 in London at a conference, and he demonstrated ZigZag. And I was excited that Ted was still trying to make his ideas, come true. And the demo he did look very impressive. And the question is whether we could move it on from that. It's a bit fiddly if you want to try the demo, so it's much nicer to have it on the web. That you can just open the web page and it's running. And not having to download bits of software and install it. Like Jeffrey says, it was interesting to try these technologies like SVG and Canvas, and it looks like now you can do pretty much everything you want to do with standards without having to use Flash, which I'm excited about. It was good to learn JavaScript.
Without using.
I don't program much JavaScript normally. I just hide away in the database side of things. So it's really interesting to get a handle on JavaScript. And I've enjoyed working on projects and with other people. This is Marlene,
Yeah, so I'm Marlene, and it's really been a great pleasure to be affiliated with Brewster and Mary and the archive. We think the corporate culture here is just phenomenal. It's so energetic and team-oriented and warm, and it's just a great place. So it's been a pleasure to be here. So this is the ZigZag browser, and this is one of my favorite features, the little random book that it presents to you from the open library that you can then, it's like being in a real library. You just randomly choose a book, and if you want a different book, you just say random restart, and you get another book. If you want to take that book and open it for reading, you just click Open Selected Book for Reading. And there it is in the wonderful book readers that you've developed here. Or if you want to see its entry in the open library, here it is. So you can do this with any book that's highlighted, whether it's the random book or a book that you found through a search. If you want to just see other titles that are near this particular title, you just click down here under View. I clicked on Title, and you can see this is just an alphabetical listing from the open library. I think, are these just, how many books are there? 2 million, or how many books are we
This is
looking at?
looking at 700,000 books at the moment.
Oh, okay.
700 are actually present here.
Oh, okay. And then, so that's a list of titles that just surround the random book. And if you want to look at authors that surround that random author, you can click on the author dimension. So now so that's the random book. Now I'm going to show you how you can do searches. So first of all, the fields that we can search on are right now are title, author, and subject. Of course, if this were expanded, you could search on any field that you have associated in the open library, like publication date or edition or whatever else you have, but we've just chosen these kind of basic ones. So you can put in one word, or if you put in 2 words. One of my favorite books happens to be Henderson the Rain King by Saul Bellow, so I'll put in Rain King. And of course it finds it, but perhaps there are other titles that have Rain and King in the title. So now if I click that I want to see vertically all titles that meet that search requirement, you see there is another title that says The King Who Reigned. So you can do searches on multiple words or terms. Right. So that's a title search. Or if you wanted to see, let me just do a reset there. If you wanted to see all books that you have here by Bellow, that's our little equivalent to the beach ball. Just be patient. So Now, if I say that I want to see across on the horizontal dimension all of the books by Saul Bellow, I see them here. Although I thought before I saw more books by Saul Bellow. Let me just see. Oh, here we go. So here's by title. Now we're looking down a list of the books by Saul Bellow. And of course, again, if I want to open the book and actually read it, it's right there. Or perhaps it's not.
Question
No? Question marks?
Maybe a recent book.
Oh, okay. But here's the open library information about it. So I can also do searches on subjects. So clear out my author and do a search on economics, let's say. And I'm still looking at title on the vertical axis. You can see it says title by author. So now it's telling me these are the books that have been classified or have a keyword, I guess, a subject keyword of economics. And then if I look across, I see other books by this same author. Now, Brewster had a great idea for a dimension that would be nice to be able to see, and that would be a resemblance dimension, where if you're on a particular book and you say you want to see other books that resemble this book, in other words, have several keywords, subject keywords in common, then you could perhaps see a list of those. That's a more complicated kind of a dimension to be showing here, so that's not implemented yet. But you can also add other words to the subject search. You can do multiple words, like you could do economics and art.
The art of economics.
And now we'll look at a list of titles that...
Implementation of the Helsinki Accords.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know, I guess these are standard, the subject matters for these various books are
So why aren't the authors going this way?
because I didn't tick, there's a little thing with authors right now,
Oh, okay.
it's
Yep.
just the tick mark. Yeah, so now we see the author going across. And, that's basically it. We could have, right now we're just showing a couple of dimensions, title and author, but all of the dimensions that are associated with a book, you could rotate on in ZigZag and see whichever two dimensions you want to look at. So that's it. Oh, and just a little bit more information about the project. This just tells something about how it was started. And then if you want to know more about ZigZag, you can click on this logo and go to the ZigZag page. I think we did a great job in 1 month.
I want to say it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. Wonderful, wonderful guys doing great work.
I agree.
I'm excited about this and that I think I did a bunch of work on trying to do network-based search, trying to get that to work. And the web hypertext system really has been sort of the two major mechanisms that people find things. It's either search results, list, or a page that has links in it that you can go from place to place and jump around in those two ways. And as this approach gets fleshed out towards this sort of dimensional way of browsing, and what I think a potential for a third way of dealing with extremely large distributed data sets. I think the books collection is probably a good one to start with. There obviously, I think, point out lots of information can be represented in this.
And is
type
there
of form.
in the system?
But the idea of being able to move around large collections of information in a new way is very exciting, and this is sort of showing the start of one.
Thank you so much for sponsoring.
Yeah.
Any questions?
This is a non-technical question, but I'm very intrigued that sort of, it obviously makes beautiful sense with books and so on. you must have done some more speculation about what the other applications are like NASA images. And so is my understanding correct that the axes could be changed to be night sky and day or whatever?
Welcome to ZigZag.
Yep.
But,
Anything you want.
but my ambitions go further. I would like to replace Windows. And create an operating system for users that is not hierarchical, that is not application-based, that is entirely different, using ZigZag units to keep track of all that stuff that people have lost in their tangled files, and kind of rescue the clarity that we once had in computers.
Very cool. I've now listened to you talk 3 or 4 times. This is the first time I actually get it. It's very cool.
You're welcome.
So, sorry.
What kind of effort would it take to add a new dimension, like publisher or something?
Well, we have a number of different versions. This is like 6 or 7 reference versions. The prettiest one is called GZZ, which doesn't save properly, but really looks good and is fun to work with. Our interface is called Kablang, it's short for keyboard language, and it allows you to make connections in new dimensions. So a new dimension takes about 20 seconds.
Yeah, you just add a cell in the dimension list and give it your dimension name, that's it.
And then you start making connections in it. So it's and the connections are linguistic entities that just name that dimension. So if you want to download that from the ZigZag page, there's a whole starter kit that lets you get a number of video demos.
Travis?
Actually, pretty much the same question. I was just wondering, like, so right now, if I want to write a letter, to my mom, I save it in a file, somewhere with my other letters, and I guess, I create a new dimension with,
Good, mom, could be the mom dimension.
like a letters dimension.
Here's my problem with all the emails. You have to put, back in the days when we put emails into folders, you had to decide which folder to put it in. And you make a copy and put it somewhere else, but why can't you create pointers to it? So this is a very simple way of creating pointers to it, many pointers to it. The pointers that are allowed to you by the operating system in Windows are called shortcuts and or aliases on the Mac, and they're little pieces of pointer that break if you move anything. What's wrong with this picture? So we don't have a world where we can rearrange our stuff clean.
So, for example, if you were organizing pictures and you had a picture that was your mom in Paris in a certain year, you would just thread it on those different dimensions. The picture would be in one place, but you can thread it in as many dimensions as are appropriate. So it's
I think email might be a good application.
Yes.
And I've been trying to,
Yes.
because it's got what thread is it part of, who is it to, what time frame, there's subjects, there's a bunch of different ways that you might want to be able to get at this. So that if you ended up with a search and you ended up on one of these, you could basically look at you could go from that place to other mail messages smoothly and easily.
Oh,
I would stress
relative
that-
messages, right? It's keeping track of people who are talking to you in Skype, people who are texting you, and people who are emailing you, all at the same damn thing.
Yeah.
I would stress that ZigZag is the younger brother of my other main design, which is called Xanadu. ZigZag is for units. Xanadu is for media. So that if you want to deal with text or with audio or with video, you want to be able to use Xanadu pointers that can point to little parts inside texts and documents and audio and video. Nobody else has this. And to me, the entire media structure of today's digital world is absolutely nuts. So if anyone wants to hear about Xanadu, it's a different discussion.
What's next?
More.
Reception.
Yes.
What's next relative to this?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if Brewster wants to put this up in the shape it's in. It's pretty good, but it's a few problems with it.
I think we should try to figure out ways to continue on. But the basic commitment of all the people involved, including the Internet Archive, was to see what we could get done in a month and then regroup and try to go and say, does this make sense? Right? So, first goal from my point of view is one, honor Ted. Another is spread this idea, right, to another group of people to try to get this idea out further. And the third was, can we actually get something done that's useful? And I think the answer on the third is not yet, right? At least it's not useful yet. Except as a demonstration and sort of the way of playing it. I don't. Do you think you can navigate?
You can put this up and people will say nobody likes it.
Okay, all right, okay.
Random thing.
So, but it needs, I think, further steps. And then the question is how and what, and, and is this sort of structure of code sprints that take more than, there are code sprints that have been a day or two, sort of code sprints. Is this sort of mechanism worth pursuing? So interested in comments now the group is sort of, and gone through the whole cycle of sort of the dreamy sort of, we can do all this, and then there's sort of week 2 and 3 of, now we have to do something, and then there's the last week of, shit! So yes, it's a sort of a hyper-compressed little project.
Fortunately, we did the major cutting week 1.
Yeah, the cutting was all done really well right at the beginning.
Yes, it was.
We pretty much had this design done
By the first week. Yeah, and you guys worked together really well. And I thought that was also can you go and put together a group that can actually get something done quickly? It's sort of an interesting, I don't know, I've never seen anything attempted really sort of in that kind of style. Not in a work world, I guess in a class you can kind of say, okay, let's do this as a senior project. But
A key point is that Andrew and Marlene and I have been working on ZigZag for 20 years, so.
Yes. Yes, you came in with knowing a lot about what it is.
And having him here for 3 weeks was marvelous in terms of tutoring the guys and clarifying it. Because he could explain it better than I could.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Refreshments are served outside the door. Oh boy.
Neat.
Careful.